So folks, this is Vision on TV coming to you live from Liberia Information, where today is a regular press briefing here at the Liberia Information. We are live here in the Chatsworth Press Hall, where we are going to bring down some of the development from our country. Where Jerolinmek Piah, we man the government podium to bring out to speech some of the happenings. So we see Honorable Dano Osano to have the podium.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen of the press. We want to stand on as it's been protocol to call this press conference to order. And we want to, on behalf of the senior management team of the Ministry of Information, welcome all of you, members of the full estate, the Liberian public, following via social media, EFBC, Trump FM, and a host of other community radio stations across the country. We want to welcome you to the Chatsworth conference room here at the Ministry of Information for another edition of the government regular press briefing. Today we want to introduce the guest for today. First we have Ambassador Jeanine. She's the Presidential Special Envoy on Climate Change and Chief Executive Officer of the Carbon Market Authority of Liberia. Of course, you know, Ambassador Koakun used to be our former Minister of Agriculture. So we want to welcome Madam Koakun and her team to the Ministry of Information. We also have with us Honorable Emmanuel, the Deputy Director General for Technical Services at the Liberia Standard Authority. Why are they here? Ambassador Koakun will provide updates regarding the Carbon Market Authority. As you know, since the President set up that institution, a lot has been done, but the things that have been done to elevate that entity has not been brought to the press. So she's here, and she'll be speaking to you on activities related to the Liberia Carbon Authority, and she will as well provide other updates on the workings of that entity. The Deputy Director for Technical Services of the Liberia Standard Authority, Mr. Miles, will address the press on the official commission ceremony of the Liberia Standard Authority Lab, which will be taking place tomorrow by His Excellency, on Thursday, by His Excellency President Joseph Boakai. So that's the rundown on our guest list. But before we take our guests, you know, it is customary that the minister will speak officially on behalf of the government on certain issues. And then after the minister concludes, Ambassador Koakun will announce the podium. She will speak to you. She will be followed by the Honorable Myers from the Liberia Standard Authority. When that is concluded, then we will entertain questions from the members of the folk estates that are here. With that being said, I have the distinguished honor to now invite Minister Jerolinmek Piah to the microphone.
Director, welcome. I think you Ambassador, Director today. You're not Ambassador, right? Well, of course, Ambassador title on the Anyway, welcome to MICAT and the MOI Press Briefing. Welcome also, and to you members of the press, good to see you here again in these halls, the MOI Press Hall. That's also, hey Charles, were you ready to? Yeah, so good to have you here. We are about to name another public institution in his honor, and that's the new broadcast and television complex at LBS. So last night, many persons were concerned about something that took place at the substation of the Liberia Electricity Corporation in the Painesville area. The entity has since issued a press statement that we thought we should elevate, since most of our people pay attention to what is said, not necessarily what is written in newspapers or Facebook or whatever. So the release says the management of the Liberia Electricity Corporation informs the general public of an incident that occurred at the Painesville substation on February 16, 2026 at approximately 10 a.m. The substation experienced an arcing flame as a result of a transformer overload, which caused a burst of a cable shoe and created an air gap within the system. Upon detection of the fault, the IEC's technical team responded swiftly and immediately isolated the affected transformer to prevent further damage and ensure public safety. Calm has since been restored at the substation, and full stabilization efforts are ongoing. Engineers and technicians will continue technical restoration works during today to ensure that the substation is fully stabilized and power supply to customers along the affected corridor is restored. Preliminary technical findings indicate that the Painesville substation has reached its saturation point, a condition that has been developing over the past 3 to 4 years due to increasing load demand. The Painesville substation currently supplies power to Shuffling, to Painesville, to Dupo Road, through Soul Clinic, to the Fender Corridor, and some parts of Gardnersville, which has experienced exponential growth in electricity consumption. Given the sustained and growing demand, the IEC is working assiduously to upgrade the existing substation and to construct a new substation in Fender to isolate the Fender corridor, balance load distribution, and enhance system reliability and efficiency along that corridor. The LEC remains committed to strengthening the national grid infrastructure and ensuring safe, reliable, and sustainable electricity supply to all customers. We appreciate the public's understanding and cooperation as they continue to improve service delivery. Also, the LEC warns that some customers are being asked to pay for utility poles, transformers, service wires, or other materials doing new connections, reconnections, of customer service request. The LEC states that these materials and services are provided free of charge within approved operational areas. No payment should be made to any employee for these services. Customers are advised not to give money to individuals claiming to represent LEC. If a payment request occurs, report it with LEC vehicle board number if applicable, full names of individual involved, photos or video if saved, date, time, location, and other relevant details. You can also report to the legal division at LEC headquarters down in Waterside, or call phone number 0773-213276. 0773-213276. The LEC emphasizes transparency, accountability, and eliminating fraud to ensure fair access to electricity services. Meanwhile, LEC is expanding its services across the city with the installation of additional streetlights in places like Cardwell, Portland, the New Bridge to St. Paul Bridge to Groville, the Japanese Drive, Cinco, particularly the avenues. All major communities in and around Monserrado and Monrovia as a whole will be reached by these services. Along the RIA highway, which was lighted recently, with gaps remaining, poles are being planted currently as we speak, filling the gap, and for the whole of this week, the actual installation of the light will take place. For some part of the road, the basement has been installed, waiting to be dried, and the poles will eventually go out and the lights installed. The goal is to ensure that Monrovia, the capital of our country, is well brightened to ensure safety, help kids to study, businesses to run for late hours. The government's raw aggression initiative on infrastructure development, particularly road, is in full swing. Road works are currently taking place on all fronts and will continue as long as the environmental circumstances will permit. And as you may all know, recently, the Piah concession was ratified by the national legislature, thanks to that branch of government for their cooperation and farsightedness. Now, Piah International has since commenced mobilization work to kick off the construction work along the Western Corridor, which runs from St. Paul Bridge to Clay to Tottenham and the Waterside. Their operational site, which is located in Saston, is currently being developed. The government and Piah will set a date soon for groundbreaking ceremonies that will immediately see the beginning of actual construction works along that corridor. That effort will be followed by mobilization work and groundbreaking also in the common front of the construction work. All of this is led by the energetic but non-engineered and misplaced Minister of Public Works, whose work as a non-engineer and a misplaced person far surpasses what the engineer who held that position in the last 6 years was able to do. During the last 6 years, when the ministry was being led by an engineer, officials of government, including the head of state of the country, had to use articles to travel to the southeast, where his home county is. During that 6 years, when we had an engineer, those of you who live across the bridge, when you see the road now being constructed towards the Import Bridge, that road was a terrible, terrible area to use. All around Monrovia, central Monrovia, where almost all the roads were non-existent, they just being fixed. Those were the era of the engineers in charge. And now that the individual they are referring to as being misplaced, and being a non-engineer is in charge, serious raw aggression work on road construction is taking place. So if misplacement is defined as such level of productivity, then I encourage the president to misplace people all over government so that the government can deliver. You see, passing around with credentials, which is something that a lot of people celebrate, is worth it, but it's not all that matters in today's world. People are more concerned about what you can do than the degree you pour your head passing around. You can have a PhD in engineering. You have another young person, maybe BSc, in the same engineering. Probably giving the both of them the chance to perform. And you'll be surprised that the poor BSc boy will do better than the PhD. So we are focused on substance of individuals who are brought to government, what they can deliver, and not a degree they carry. We can't be running around fighting degree battle because degrees also are not lacking in the current administration. There are people in this administration where educators went to some of the best schools around the world, Ivy League universities, but that's not what they come here with. What they come with is the desire to perform. And if you don't perform, it doesn't matter where you come from, what kind of degree you carry, what's the name of your Ivy League university. We care less about that. Performance is what matters because it is what will affect the lives of our people. When people can't have road to travel home, when they're in darkness, when hospitals can't function, when schools can't function, but yet the individuals within those career areas are all over the place with a VP degree. It's not important. And maybe the one that I can close on this, when a president is elected, that president is being given a mandate. The president will determine who can help him to achieve what is being asked to do. So we hear former senior government officials say, oh, next time we petition any president who comes here that he forced to appoint an engineer, then it means you so detached from the very piece of legal instrument, which is our constitution, that determines the powers of the president. The president does not need a petition from you to decide who says where. The only group of people who can cross-check what the president does when formulating the government is the House of Senate. Because in some cases, not in all cases, they have the role to do confirmation. They can disagree with the president and no, I will not take this person, or they decide to do it. Beyond those people, they will require a petition from anywhere to tell the president, whether President Boakai or another president, that when you are elected, you force to make an engineer based on public works. If you are a minister there before you understand the structure, there is a particular position designed for engineering. And that's the Deputy Minister for Technical Services. Heads of public institutions are basically, which is most important, administrators. If I know all the things I'm supposed to do about communication, but I'm administratively inept, then I'm not well suited to be the Minister of Information. Because my first responsibility here is to manage people and administer the affairs of this institution, in addition to the fact that I am expected to communicate. I hope we made ourselves clear on that issue. Another issue that has been in the news for a while, and I know a lot of people being concerned because of the security nature of it, and which the Ministry of Justice has finally spoken to. But again, as I said, most of our people listen, then read. So it's good to put the things in black and white, but it's also good for somebody to be able to say, what is it that is in black and white? So the Ministry of Justice says they have taken note of alarming reports, images, and public communications circulating on social media concerning the purported establishment and recruitment activities of a group identifying itself as the National Full Security of Liberia. The ministry states unequivocally that no authorization, permit, registration, license, or operational approval has been granted by the government of Liberia for the creation, operation, recruitment, and deployment of any entity under the name National Full Security of Liberia or any similar formation. Under the laws of Liberia, the establishment, organization, recruitment, and operation of any security body, paramilitary structure, auxiliary force, or organized enforcement entity requires prior authorization from the government through the Ministry of Justice in compliance with tax and regulatory obligations. No such process has been initiated, undertaken, or completed in relation to this group. Furthermore, the ministry has confirmed that the individual has undergone governmental assessment. Accordingly, the Ministry of Justice hereby orders the immediate cessation and the existence of all recruitment, organizational, operational, promotional, or mobilizational activity associated with the so-called National Full Security of Liberia. Any continuation of such activities will be considered a direct violation of the laws of the Republic of Liberia and will attract the full weight of criminal and administrative sanctions. The government will not recognize, legitimize, or tolerate the formation of unauthorized security structures, particularly those organized along ethnic, tribal, communal, and sectarian lines. National security, law enforcement, and public order are constitutional responsibility of legally established state institutions. These responsibilities cannot and will not be delegated, assumed, or appropriated to private groups operating outside the framework of the law. The ministry emphasizes that Liberia is a state governed by law, and that no individual or group, regardless of identity, affiliation, or claimed purpose, is permitted to establish parallel security structures and undertake recruitment activities. The ministry has instructed relevant security and regulatory agencies to investigate this matter immediately. Where violations are established, appropriate enforcement action will follow in strict accordance with Liberian law. The public is assured that the government remains fully committed to maintaining peace, security, and national unity. Citizens and residents are urged to refrain from engaging in or participating in any unauthorized security formations and to report any suspicious activities to the appropriate authorities. The Ministry of Justice will continue to monitor developments closely and will take further actions as necessary to uphold the rule of law. I know there's a lot of impatience when it comes to the fight against corruption. For people who elect government for different purposes, and those who thought that one of the reasons for electing the current administration to vote people who they believe butchered the public corporate accountable. Many of these people have expressed frustration on how slow it's been to hold people accountable. But the government has been consistent in saying, while we want to hold people accountable, it should always be done consistent with the rule of law. There can be no arbitrariness in trying to hold people accountable. When people are accused of wrongdoing, they will have to be charged, indicted, and then you allow the court process to take place. So it is in that line that the court system of recent formed 2 senior government officials linked with ladies guilty and have them sentenced for 5 years each. The presiding judge of criminal procedure, Boakai, handed down the sentence to Lawrence George and Dominic Piah, both former officials of the Liberia Institute of Statistics and Geoinformation Services. Judge Boakai upheld the jury's unanimous guilty verdict against the 2 men. The case was prosecuted by the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission following the 2023 indictment. According to the LACC, approximately 1.795 million allotted for census-related activities between 2019 and 2022 will have been fully accounted for. In addition to the prison term, the court ordered Mr. George and Mr. Piah to restitute $97,000 representing outstanding balance of the disputed funds. A new agricultural mission officially gets underway to expand opportunities for farmers, strengthen rural infrastructure, and boost value addition across the country as the government of Liberia reaffirms strong partnership with the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD. The mission will focus on expanding the tree crop extension project phase 2, MICAT, and conducting the midterm review of the Building Climate Resilience project, with priorities including the establishment of a national coffee seed garden for Liberia's prized Liberica coffee, expansion of feeder road development to improve market access, strengthening cocoa production and scaling up rice production in line with Liberia's food security goals. The IMF has announced extensive training and capacity building opportunities for staff for the Liberia Revenue Authority to strengthen domestic resource mobilization and fiscal governance. A new Keynes lab was introduced by IMF resident representative Joel Q. Owoki. The facility featured advanced econometric software, high-speed internet, and economic workstations for policy focus and technical learning. The focus of the training will include macroeconomics, fiscal and monetary policy, public finance management, financial sector policy, climate-related economic rates, inclusive growth, and digital transformation in revenue administration. The Ministry of Gender and Social Protection will today host a stakeholder coordination meeting with international development partners who are active in advancing gender equity, child protection, and social protection across Liberia. The purpose of the meeting is to strengthen coordination, collaboration, and alignment of partner-supported intervention with Liberia's national development priorities, establish a structured engagement framework to boost collective impact and accountability. The meeting reinforces the ministry as Liberia's lead government body for gender equity, for child welfare and social protection, emphasizing coherent government partner collaboration to achieve sustainable and inclusive development. As you may know, finally, which we want to talk about, the President is back in the country from the AU Summit, which was held on the theme assuring sustainable water availability and safe sanitation system to achieve goals of Agenda 2063, which is the African Union's agenda. Discussion centered on strengthening sustainable development framework, improving public health system, and expanding water and sanitation infrastructure across the continent. While there, the President also called a high-level consolidated meeting on reforms in the UN. He urged African states to advance a unified position towards a more equitable and representative multilateral system, noting that the international body faces mounting pressure for protracted conflict, humanitarian crisis, and declining global confidence in international institutions. The President also took time off to have bilateral with Ethiopian Prime Minister, the President of Ghana, the President of South Africa, the President of Kenya, and other senior AU officials. So we end here because we have other guests who can present everything we have. So I may now take this time to invite the presidential Envoy on climate. Then where the other carbon market is coming from? Oh, CEO. I think that one to look quite good. Yeah, why are you here for right? And CEO, the platform. One more put it on. Oh, you here? You must not to see what you oh, you want me to do it now? Will you start? Yeah. All right. So the government of Liberia takes note and is now aware that civil rights activists, Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson, has died. Born October 8, 1941, and he died February 17 today. He was an American civil rights activist, a politician, an ordained Baptist minister, a protege of Martin Luther King Jr. during the civil rights movement. He became one of the most prominent civil rights leaders of the late 20th and 21st centuries. From 1991 to 1997, served as a shadow delegate and shadow senator for the District of Columbia. He was the father of U.S. Representative Jonathan Jackson and former U.S. Representative Jesse Jackson Jr. The government expresses condolences to his family and prays that his soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Minister Piah, Deputy and Assistant Ministers of Information, Deputy Director General of the Liberia Standard Authority, members of the MICAT Press Corps, members of my team from the Carbon Markets Authority, here present, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like February is the month where I have come to MICAT to address. My last appearance was here was in February 2023. And I note that the room, although the name hasn't changed, has changed. I want you to know, Minister, that we named this hall in the evergreen memory of my uncle, Charles Chacha Bayum. I want to thank you on behalf of the family for refurbishing this press hall and in this building and for the honor that you have done to Uncle Chacha. Thank you. So I'm here to talk about the Carbon Markets Authority. We all know that Liberia holds a position of global ecological significance. We contain more than 43% of the remaining Upper Guinea rainforest, which is a critical biodiversity hotspot and a massive land carbon sink. As the most forested nation in West Africa, almost 70% of our land surface is covered by dense tropical forests. Our management as a nation and people of these resources is central to international climate mitigation strategies. Our forests and wetlands are home to endangered species and many species that are only found here, endemic to Liberia. We all know about the pygmy hippopotamus, the western chimpanzee, red colobus monkey, so many migratory birds, sea turtles, crocodiles, all of those find their homes here in Liberia. Carbon markets represent Liberia's next frontier for sustainable growth. And they offer a mechanism for us to monetize the huge forest and natural capital assets, to monetize our work in biodiversity conservation, and to monetize our work in managing our ocean resources. The primary importance of carbon for Liberia lies in the fact that we are a carbon sink. That carbon lies in our forests, our wetlands, our waterways, and our biodiversity. But while we know that we have this outstanding natural resource base, there are many aspects, if not most aspects, of carbon trading and carbon project development remain unfamiliar to us here in Liberia, and as such, they remain untapped. And because of this, His Excellency President Nyuma Boakai established the Carbon Markets Authority under Presidential Executive Order number 155 of October 2025 that will later transition into an act of the legislature to establish the Carbon Markets Authority and Liberia Sovereign Commonwealth Fund Act of 2026. Minister Piah just highlighted the President's role as our top elected official to make decisions for the betterment of the country. The Carbon Markets Authority is one such decision that he has made for Liberia to finally start to benefit from our natural capital and the endowment. Some will say God-given endowment, but it is ours, and we have kept it so far. It's serving a global purpose, and it is time that we also see those benefits. So the CMA, Carbon Markets Authority, is the government of Liberia's landmark step towards advancing Liberia's participation in global financial markets and the carbon trade through a three-pronged strategy. So first, the CMA serves as the lead national entity for all matters related to carbon market development. Second, the CMA hosts the Blue Economy Secretariat, which represents a transformative approach to the sustainable management and development of Liberia's vast ocean and coastal and water resources. Third, the CMA is designed as a special purpose climate finance vehicle and special revenue fund capable of mobilizing, managing, and leveraging carbon market revenues as bankable assets for the country. It is further structured to become Liberia's first sub-sovereign entity to obtain a credit rating, thereby positioning the country to access international capital markets through climate-aligned financial instruments. All of this, much of this, or even some of this, may be unfamiliar language to us. If you're fishing in water, you don't notice the water. But we have all these assets, and the President says it's high time that Liberia takes its place in the global financial markets, using our natural capital and the carbon endowment that we have. So our specific roles include overseeing policy formulation, market participation, and compliance with international frameworks such as the Paris Agreement on climate change. It's in planning Liberia's active role in global carbon trade and emission reduction initiatives by leveraging our enriched natural resources, forests and coastlines, and our renewable energy potential to generate sustainable economic growth and strengthen community resilience. So, by establishing the CMA, the President is guiding Liberia to institutionalize sovereign control over these assets, while ensuring that we have transparent registry systems that will prevent double counting, that we will have clear benefit sharing mechanisms with communities and private landowners, that we will have annual independent audits and public disclosure, and that we will align all of these with national debt management laws. We establish a Liberian Sovereign Commonwealth Fund, which will mirror international sovereign wealth fund best practices. It will be our first sovereign wealth fund as a country. And it will mirror international best practices by preserving capital, limiting unsustainable withdrawals, investing for long-term natural benefits, and, long-term national benefits, and this is very important for the President, for all of us, protecting the economic interests of Liberia's future generations. So not just for today, but for the long term. So the CMA is not merely an environmental coordination body, it's an innovative way for Liberia to ensure fiscal transparency, intergenerational equity, and sovereign control over our natural assets to advance our work in preserving our ecosystems. So how does the CMA operate? The minister joking me about the ambassador business. The CMA is a public corporation framework. It currently operates under the office of the President at the Executive Mansion with a steering committee that's there, that's overseeing our activities. And we coordinate with other ministries and agencies of government, including all of the ones that you will know: Ministry of Finance and Development Planning, Ministry of Agriculture, the EPA, the FDA, Maritime Authority, NAFA, the National Fisheries and Aquaculture Authority, Liberia Land Authority, Liberia Aviation Authority, among others. And we are leading and coordinating a whole of government approach to monetizing Liberia's natural assets. The establishment of a sovereign capital wealth fund under the CMA will allow us to define fiscal rules, protect revenue from short-term political or budgetary pressures, and segregate accounts for our carbon market proceeds to be directed towards adaptation, resilience, and sustainable development. This ring fencing of the sovereign carbon wealth fund is essential if we want to transform carbon flows into predictable, financeable revenue streams suitable for capital market instruments such as blue, green bonds, and other sovereign wealth funds. So our planned activities for the first year of implementation: first is institutional establishment and governance, of course. Second is to work on the legal and regulatory framework development, because much of this is new to us, but also much of this transcends multiple ministries, agencies, and entities. And so we have to package it all together. Thirdly, we need to develop systems for measurement, reporting, and verification, what they call MRV. And we want to deploy a national carbon registry that will have a dashboard with live, real-time updates. We need to assess our national carbon sinks. We know we have it, but we need to assess it to international standards so that it is documented. This is what we have from this place to this place. This is what we have, and this is how much carbon we are storing for the global good. We're developing a carbon projects pipeline. We're doing stakeholder engagement, and we will do more on capacity building. We're establishing international partnerships to help us get ahead, because this is a new frontier for Liberia, for much of Africa, and even for some parts of the world. The rules change, they're being set, modified, reset, and we want to be part of that decision making and setting of the rules, because we have the assets, and if the rules are made elsewhere about the assets that we hold, we will be, or could be, the losers. And we ultimately, this year, would like to set up a carbon market exchange, which would be the first environmental exchange, national environmental exchange in West Africa. Lagos State in Nigeria has one, recently established about 2 or 3 months ago, but there is no national carbon markets exchange. We want to be the first. So our work heretofore, since October, has focused on setting up the CMA, our basic management structure. We're very small. Because we were mandated towards the end of the year, almost at the end of the budget year, not almost, but just about there. The resources to do this are still being gathered. We've had multiple stakeholder consultations and engagement. We consulted with retired public servants in the diplomatic and fiscal management space to get their opinions on the direction that we should take with this new asset. We've consulted with members of the diplomatic community, notably the EU, with Sweden and France, with the offices, of course, of the President and the Vice President, as well as with government agencies, international NGOs, with civil society organizations, National Rubber Brokers and Farmers Union of Liberia, with international organizations like the African Union's International Bureau for Agri Resources, and other blue economy stakeholders. We will continue our consultation and engagement process and further ensure coordination among key relevant government of Liberia actors under a one-community approach. Legal and regulatory framework development. We've developed a draft legislation for the establishment of the CMA, and we are leading the reactivation of the Carbon Technical Committee that operates under the National Climate Change Steering Committee, and that will henceforth oversee the finalization of the draft carbon markets legislation that was worked on extensively last year. We want to make sure that other sectors of the economy are included, including the private sector, our pension funds, our banking sector, our insurance funds, who are the investors in carbon markets and carbon projects, Chamber of Commerce, LIBA, Liberia Business Association, and so forth. On resource mobilization, we formally engaged the international firm Guardian Knot Strategies to raise money from international, bilateral, and philanthropic organizations, development finance, private sector, and climate-aligned funding sources. We are developing a national project pipeline that includes rubber projects, rubber tree planting, waste management projects, and our consultant partners have developed investment prospectus for Marshall wetlands, for the Lake Piso multi-use reserve area, and are working now on the Woolagisi forest area that was recently in the news with Forestry Development Authority and Fauna and Flora Organization for its conservation. And more. There are so many, I can't name them all. Technical advisory services. We've developed and signed contracts for strategic and technical services with several national and international partners, while discussions are ongoing with others. So Guardian Knot strategies are mentioned to support institutional strengthening, systems design, financial frameworks, and the governance model development. With next year for the development and implementation of our first methane plus mitigation policy, and for renewable energy certificates, and for establishing the Liberia Climate Catalytic Fund, with Lake Piso solutions to support website development and for strategic advisory on national MRV systems. Add 9 consultants for the carbonization of key national assets. Prime Vantage for establishing digital platforms and managing our digital assets, also serving as technical advisors. The Nature Compact to collaborate on a project to restore and manage the Sesto Senquen coastal wetlands in Riverside County. We're discussion with several others, and we look forward to a robust year that will see Liberia entering the global stage for carbon and financial market transactions. Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister Piah, the Ambassador and Presidential Envoy, Koakun, Deputy Minister, Assistant Minister, the Fourth Estate, ladies and gentlemen. I firstly want to extend my thanks and appreciation to the Honorable Minister for affording me and the Liberia Standard Authority the stage today. The Liberia Standard Authority, formerly National Standard Life, which was enacted into law in 2022 and operationalized 2024, will on this Thursday be officially launched by His Excellency, the President Joseph Boakai. And the launch of the Liberia Standard Authority has been a whole week of activities that began on last Thursday. On last Thursday, there were a media opening and activation day for which all of the media institutions were invited. And there were a joint press release from both the Liberia Standard Authority, UNIDO, who has been one of our key funders, the EU, and within that press release, it was an opportunity also to launch our quality mark, the certification mark, and our new logo. So following that, Thursday was a Friday. Friday was a day we call the private setup day. In the private setup day, we had the producers, the exporters, consumers, SMEs, the SMEs and the MSMEs were all there. So the thing we had there is, how can our service help you? Because Liberia Standard Authority, which has the authority for developing, maintaining, and promoting standards in Liberia, both for consumers protection, trade facilitation, and agricultural development. So we help producers, we help exporters and whatever, because if you want to export from out of this country as a farmer or whatever, the standard based on standard, there are standards out there that your produce should meet up with. So as a standard authority, we guide people on what are the different management procedures that you have to follow. And basically we have different tables for the different services we have, for the standard services, for the metrology, which is basically the science of measurement. We also have basically for our testing, our certification, all of that. So amongst all of these people, they were coming asking us, what are their challenges in the delivery businesses? What are challenges in how the Liberia Standard Authority could help them? It was a very engaged day. On Friday, we had it for the entire Friday. There were other feedbacks. I think most of you here were there on Friday. That did not end there. Monday, we had another day we call the Science Day, which was for the regulators and the academic. There is many times, if you went to a business bank, if EPA went there, standard code, everybody concerned. What is your responsibility? And what is your responsibility? So as a government, we want to have a one government to be able to coordinate very well. So the first thing is, as a standard authority, an institution that has come to give service, even those services are given both to the private sector and government institutions, to enhance your enforcement, to enhance your regulatory function. So we sat down with NAFA, all the different regulators, we said, you know, that this is our function, this is what our act tells us. How can we collaborate? We don't want duplication. How can we collaborate? So we had a whole dialogue discussions. The discussion, some of it has initiated an MOU to see, okay, how we're going to collaborate. And Standard Authority also being an institution which is scientifically based, because we're starting out to grant. We have not gone in all parts of Liberia. We will need the professional, we will need whatever it is. So we're working with academia to tap in the good science students out there doing an internship and whatever to see how we can strategically recruit. So those discussions were here on the MOU and it was very fine. Today, before I came here, we are having development partners and donors all at the Standard Laboratory. This day is for donors and development partners. Today, we were able to launch our strategic plan, meaning our next plan for the next 5 years, along with the business plan and sustainability plan. So prior to coming, that's one reason why my Director General could not come here today. So we are having engagement with the different donors. This is our plan, this is our sustainability plan for the next 5 years. Standard Authority is the hope for Liberians, because every one of us, what we eat, what we consume, what we sell, it has to meet our standard, and not just standard, but good standard. And how is that done is basically, yes, we are a government institution, but we also believe that the donor can see to enhance our ability to be able to meet up with what standards we have. So we're having a discussion today, and I left my entire team there, that's why I'm here alone. And tomorrow we'll be having a parade. We'll be having a parade tomorrow, which is like a national awareness. We really don't want to keep our awareness within our facility. We've taken it out. So beginning tomorrow by 9 o'clock, we will have our team parading. They will be parading along the Union Drive through Central Monrovia Broad Street and heading for Ray Light and to Douala tomorrow doing an awareness. Basically, on our awareness, you have the PA, you will have other people with the different brochures. We have meeting the different consumers, meeting the petty traders and whatever to say that, okay, now we have the Liberia Standard Authority here. Basically, we are here. So the Standard Authority now, which was formerly the National Standard Lab, now has been funded by the Liberia Food Safety Project, being implemented by UNIDO and funded by the EU. So basically, the entire facility that was used initially by the Liberia Standard Lab has been refurbished. So the 7 million from the Food Safety Project, EU was able to allocate 300,000 of that money to the refurbishing of the Liberia Standard Lab. So that refurbishing of the Liberia Standard Lab did not only include that, there is a full electricity basically from the KVA generator gotten, and not only that, they have had a full installation of a solar dish electricity inline also with the LEC we have. So at the Liberia Standard Lab, you have a full electricity. Not only that, we have a deep borehole that has been dug there, so water issues are not issue any longer. Then the 5 different labs we've had have been refurbished. So we have, on the testing, we basically have the full chemistry lab that have been fully refurbished. I think those of you that have been with for the last 2 days, you have been able to tour those basic things. And we expect by Thursday, the president will tour those basic things. Not only the full chemistry lab, we have the microbiology lab, and in the metrology, we have 3 different labs on the metrology, which is basically, like I said initially, is the science of measurement. And there we have the temperature lab. Apart from the temperature lab, we have the volume lab, and we also have the mass lab. All of those different labs have been refurbished. And within the food safety program, as supported us, it's not only the lab, it's not only the facility, the electricity and water, that has extended to capacity building as well. So over the last couple of months, the Liberia Standard Authority staff have usually gone to the Ghana Standard Authority. We have had 23 style that have been going, because basically in our strategic plan, we are focused on using last year and this year to focus on branding to get the basic capacity that it entails us to be able to give, to be able to serve the nation, serve the private sector, and basically. So on Thursday, that the president will be having the launch, the presidential launch and dedication of Lisa represent is not just a ceremonial event, but what it represents a signal to the commitment that Liberia is strengthening its national quality infrastructure, aligning with regional systems such as the Economic Community of West Africa states, enhancing trade competitiveness, protecting consumers, and also supporting the arrest agenda, development agenda. This launch marks the transition from a fragmented quality oversight to a coordinated national quality system. The national development cannot occur without quality assurance. The Liberia Standard Authority exists to ensure the food we eat is safe, the building we occupy are secure, the fuel we buy is accurately dispensed, the product we consume meets defined standards. Quality must become Liberia's culture. Through a strengthened national quality infrastructure, we are building a safer, fairer, and more competitive Liberia. And on the launch, you're going to have the EU, UNIDO is there now. We already have the regional coordinator for UNIDO in country to represent that. The EU is here as well. In country, we have the World Food Program. We also have the WFP. And apart from that, from the government end, the board chairman, who is also the council chairman of the Liberia Standard Authority, Honorable Dagosa, including the Minister of Information, Minister of Finance, and all dignitaries of government will be there on Friday for the president to officially launch now the Liberia Standard Authority, introducing the Standard Authority to Liberia as a whole. Thank you so much.
With a presentation from the Deputy Director General of the Liberia Standard Authority, we will now provide members of the press an opportunity to interact with our distinguished speakers. So we'll take a couple of questions. Given how long the line is, tell me where to stop. Because time is of essence here. So please state your name, your emphasis, and your question.
Thank you, Minister. My name is Emmanuel, and I'm for Inside Liberia. So my question firstly goes to the Carbon Marketing Authority. So your plans for the institution are all good, and we hope that you will succeed. But I think the original intent for the establishment of that institution by the president is a fund generation. But you mentioned out of the plan, since you took over, you did mention what the government has achieved in terms of finance. Are you here to tell the public about that? Lastly, to the Standard Authority, thank you so much. But Liberians are still thinking about the issue of the frozen food, and you have a lot. I don't know if you want to talk about it, whether you are already giving those people who selling frozen food that their products are okay, can be sell to the Liberian people. Thank you.
So good afternoon, my name is Natwisa, and I report for Star TV. My question goes to CNA. I want to ask how prepared you equip the CNA in order to organize the national climate vaccination.
You get a question? Got a question?
Thank you for the time. My name is Alison Smoke and I report for Today Liberia Television. My question goes directly to the Liberia Standard Authority. I just want to know, how will Liberia Standard Authority address challenges in ensuring compliance with national standards, particularly in the context of imported goods, and what measures are put in place to protect consumers? Thank you.
Okay, my name is Atopi Wisa. Thanks for giving me the opportunity. I report for the Homeland Online TV. My question goes to the Minister. Minister, thanks for the presentation. You were so more clear to clarify things. My question has to do with the level of repairs on the street lights along the Chipani Freeway. I must say thanks to the government for carrying on that initiative, but there are other lights that are yet to come on. And my question here, what is the total and what is it?
My name is George Memo, and I report for the Excellency. So my question goes to the CMD. The reason for establishment, you think the plans, they are all good. It's clear that it's new to Liberia. So my concern has to do, how do you intend, or what is on your plate in terms of partnering with the media to get your work more across Liberia?
Thank you. My name is Dara Skanda, and from here, question to the embargo. First, I look at the issue of the national cloud. They wanted to know if we okay. Yeah, first, I look at the issue of national strategies and policy direction of climate change. How is Liberia aligning its climate strategy with the goals of the United Nations framework on climate change? And second to that, what is the biggest obstacle facing Liberia in addressing climate change? Thank you.
My name is Joseph Sade, and I report for Lantana TV. The Standard Authority. Thank you so much. I was part of the team of journalists who ran a tour for entire facility. But I have a few questions here. I want to know, with the strength of your workforce, will there be people, or would there be rotation in testing some of these goods, or will you have people coming from outside the country helping you to assist you in this function? And due to that, will there be fees that will be attached to maybe somebody coming from outside and they want to maybe give a test on their products? And to cover what all you are saying here, are there plans in getting jingles? Because my grandma in Zulu, Lofa County, did not understand your language, your jargons that you are saying here.
So my name is Jeanine and I report for the Liberia African MICAT. And my first question will go to Lisa Boss. Chief, what specific initiatives Lisa implementing to support local industries and promote made in Liberia products? And how will these efforts impact the country economic and the protections of economic stabilities, and especially the alcohol purchase produced in Liberia, allegedly is damaging the labor of the consumers in Liberia? The next questions go to the CNA boss. How will CNA ensure that carbon market products prioritizes the needs and rights of local communities, and what mechanisms are put in place for community engagement and grievance redress for our local communities? And finally, to our Minister Piah, Chief, people won't have a little bit clarity regarding to those who are convicted of the corruption charges, others will be sentenced at time. He said that they are going to spend the 5 years in prison, followed by the restitutions of the funding, so we won't have clarity reduction. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, my name is Desmond and I report for Democracy Watch newspaper. My first concern goes to CAM. Thanks, Honorable CEO, for your presentation. Assuming over admitted that CAM is financially challenged, what is that extra challenge that associated with CAM, and how does CAM, the carbon market? CMA, okay, sorry.
It's not your question. I thought you were.
So, I was trying to get it angrily for that. I was trying to get it angrily for that. So, it's CMA.
Yes, CMA.
Thank you. So, assuming over admitting that CMA is challenged financially, are there different challenges associated with CMA, and how does CMA intend to attract its potential for jobs opportunities for Liberians? And to our folks from the Standard Authority, moreover, it's not Liberia. I agree that the president very soon will be officially the commissioning of the institution. Are there particular plans in terms of decentralization so that the services can also be effective in other counties across the country? Thank you.
Thank you for the other question.
Thank you very much for the questions. The first one, I will go in order of questions received, and forgive me if I missed the name of your institution. You can just correct me. So Inside Liberia asks, what has the government achieved in terms of the original plan for generating funds in the past 100 days of the CMA's existence? I think I highlighted that the first year we were focusing first and foremost on institutional setup, and so the generation of funds comes towards the end of that when you have a national carbon registry in place, when you have a carbon market exchange in place, and you can start to register projects. That is to say, people who are actively participating. There are some who are doing so now without any reference to government or national authorities. There are participants, people who are participating in global carbon markets, benefiting from the carbon that we are storing here in Liberia, but we don't have a platform for them to register it, for it to report any revenues. So our first order of business is to establish those platforms. We have a planned strategy to have that installed by the second quarter of this year, at least temporary platform where we can then learn the lessons that we need to learn on how this should be ultimately established and legislated. From Star TV, you asked how prepared is the CMA to organize the National Climate Exchange and the Climate Market Exchange. Well, first thing is to recognize that this is an instrument that we in Liberia want. We have all of the laws in place in different parts of the country, different parts of our legislation. What do we take from Public Financial Management Law, from the Land Rights Act, from the Community Rights Act, from the Forest Act? How do we put that together so that we can come up with a framework? And that framework will guide us in setting up. It will be our first. We don't have a stock exchange here. Many countries in Africa do, or more countries in Africa do not have a stock exchange. We do not have a commodities exchange here. Many countries in Africa do, but many countries do not. In the West, these things are common. You have them at national level, you have them at sub-national level, at regional level, etc., etc. So this is new territory. How prepared are we? Well, the former president said, dream big. If your dreams don't scare you, don't go there. Lena asked, what is on our plate in terms of partnering? The person from Lena? Yeah, please.
With the media.
Oh, with the media. Okay, yes, that's a part. I did it right. We are trying to develop a media and a communications strategy. Not trying to develop, we have one, but we have been constrained a little bit in terms of all of the many parts of the moving vehicle that we're trying to establish. So this is our first media engagement, and Minister Piah, okay, I will not talk about it. This is our first media engagement. We plan to have many more and to much more robustly engage not only with the local media but also the international media, because what we're setting up is not something that's only around us, but it also involves how we engage internationally. Darius from OKFM asked about do the national strategies for climate alignment align with the UNFCCC and to take forward the climate change strategy. Darius? OKFM? Yeah, what was your question exactly? About alignment?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Liberia is a signatory to the Paris Agreement of 2015, and we have always aligned with the UNFCCC in terms of our climate strategies. What we have not done is engage robustly with Article 6 of the Paris Agreement, which provides for entry into compliance markets, voluntary carbon markets, and non-market mechanisms. We have not really done much of that. A little bit, we have the Red Plus project, and we have other projects usually run by the FDA, the EPA. The minister mentioned one from the Ministry of Agriculture that was designed and started when I was minister, the BCRP, Building Climate Resilience Project, with the Adaptation Fund. That's a grant from the Adaptation Fund. So we've engaged with grants, we've engaged with development partners, but we have not come out with our own engagement as a nation with the international markets that are provided for under Article 6. Happy to speak with you later on the details. Joseph wants for his grandma to understand climate change. What's Joseph? Joseph? Yeah, which entity?
Lata TV.
Lata?
Yeah.
Lata TV.
So I from Lofa Zolo.
Sorry?
I said I'm from Lofa County Zolo.
Oh, Zolo. Okay, all right, good. So, can you help us to? Can you?
Yeah, but I'm not doing a pro bono scheme.
No. I'm not asking you to help us. If you understand climate change, you are better than 99.9% of us here in Liberia. Even while here talking, a lot of the things that I have to say are technical and everything myself learning. So to understand climate change is simple, but we will get the jingles going and put it on the different radios in the different languages. But that's for climate change. When it comes to carbon, that's even more technical and more Because carbon, you can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't feel it. And it's not the carbon that we are working with, it's the carbon credits, which is a value that's put on the carbon, and they measure it by tons, etc., etc. We don't even have those systems in place. So to go and explain carbon to your grandmother in Lofa County, you will have to help us. So, and we understand, and nothing is free. And even if it were free, it would be expensive. So, there was a question on how will CMA ensure that carbon projects prioritize the needs of local communities. CMA is not here to revisit work that has already been done by the government. It's to enhance, it's to bring it all together. So a lot of work has been done with local communities, is ongoing with local communities, including from FDA, EPA, Land Authority, everybody. We all sit down and we all sat and look at what would a carbon trading policy look like from the Liberia standpoint. What the CMA is going to do is take all of that work, sit down with everybody, and then add in more people who have other ideas on how we can engage in the international level with the work for the local communities. But it's not just local communities, it's also private sector owners, it's also government assets. How do we package it best so that everybody can benefit? And we have the frameworks, we've discussed these things at length. Many stakeholder engagements have happened over the years. Last year there were a lot, there were county engagements, there were national level engagements. What we're saying is that we want to extend that to other parts of the community, the private sector in particular, the banking sector, because you're talking about markets, you're talking about finance, you're talking about the people who will invest. The biggest investors in carbon trading are pension funds in Europe and the US, in the West. We have a pension fund here which is NASCO. NASCO has not been engaged in setting these policies. We have insurance companies here who invest the money that they get. That's how insurance works. We have banks who are looking to invest their non-liquid capital. We want to be sure that all of them are consulted. They can say, if you do it this way, you will box us out. If you do it this way, then we can participate. So that consultation has to be inclusive and go beyond just what the community says, but look at all of the players in the system. And the last one is from Democracy Watch. How will the Carbon Markets Authority grow jobs for Liberia? The whole government is involved in growing jobs for Liberians. The carbon market is just one tiny fraction of the government of Liberia, and we are working to bring as a revenue generating fund that is being set up that will then channel that revenue into government projects, development projects, adaptation projects that will then provide the jobs. So I think that's the questions that I had. Any further questions we can discuss otherwise. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The first question here is around frozen food. Sorry, I didn't know who did that question. But please allow me to answer the second question and then we'll cover the first one. So the second question from OKFM talks about compliance with national standards, especially imported goods. What mechanism is being put in place by the Liberia Standard Authority? So the first thing I want you to know is the Liberia Standard Authority is the institution that makes sure that the things we buy, we sell, we deal with, we eat, drink, and export are safe and correct, of good quality. We are here to protect Liberians from all bad products. we help businesses to improve their quality, and we make sure measurements are very fair. Now we go to the pump, you see buying 1 gallon of gasoline, it is a $1 gasoline. Because we want fairness in trade. But the first thing we have to know that standard is a rule that says how good, how safe something must be. So that one has to be set up first. Our compliance to national standards. The first thing we've done right after here is already at the desk of the Council of Lisa, the Commerce Minister, with the entire process of developing a standard from the ISO perspective, which is the International Standard Organization. We're not going to do that, we can't do that. We've already established 126 Liberian standards. 216, I'm sorry, 216. So in order for those standards to be standard, they are in food, agricultural products, they are also in electrical products, and basically. But in order for those standards to be standards, it has to be gazetted. And to be gazetted is the board or the council that has to have that approved. So when those standards are set, it is in our responsibility that this is, because right now what's happening is, yes, we're saying that the Standard Authority is a scientific institution. We don't want to be anybody to say we got substandard product in the market. No. We set standard based on what international in the context of what Liberia is, where we have all the experts on that. The initial one has been established, like I said, is 216 standards. And those standards will be gazetted right after the launch. The board chairperson has confirmed that to us. So we will make sure that the Liberian standards live that. Part of, like I said, part of our activities this week has been the different setup. Like Friday, Monday, when we had engagement with regulators. The regulator, like our mother institution, Ministry of Commerce. Ministry of Commerce gives RPD, things that are imported in this country. So if things are imported in the country, we have the Standard Authority, which is a semi-autonomous institution under the Ministry of Commerce. The reference to RPD being given should be based on standard, on quality. So these are discussions we're having, so that if anything that comes in country is based on that, we've already finished setting a national standard. It's in our responsibility to do that as a standard authority. So all of that is in place. Like we said, it was a national standard lab, but now it's an authority with a standard responsibility. The second question came from, that was the first. The third question came from Joseph. He said the strength was standard with the Liberia Standard Authority, and how will you rotate your staff to meet up with the huge demand, and whether what we're doing has fees. Of course, all of the services that Standards Authority gives are fees. We've been working with the donors, we've been working with different institutions, and our fee are not restrained for the SMPs, the MSME. Because if you see that these are people we want to support at a huge extent to see that what you produce to meet up with our own consumptions, and for the after the free African trade process, where to be able to be exported out. So with our fees on that, our fees are very flexible with the SMPs and other people. In terms of our strength, Standard Authority, like we said initially, and even in our strategic plan that has been launched today, we are using this year, last year, this year, because strategic plan runs from 2005 to 2029. So we are grounding first. When we grounding is basically getting all the capacity of that to be able to function to our core within the art, which we're doing it. And initially, including the press conference, I told you we have had like 23 of our staff have been going Ghana for training coming over the last couple of months, or the last 3 months of that. Yeah. So our services now, we got people that are offering the service because we really don't want to take, we got a huge tax. We don't want to go all over. We want to take space by space within confines of what our capacity, what the capacity can get on now. So strategically is spare power in our strategic planning basically on that. Local industry support. Someone asked on the local industry, what is Lisa supporting alcohol? Hello? Did I get it right? Sorry, I didn't put that question right. Local industry support from Lisa. Then there's capture alcohol into that.
Yeah.
Can I get that question again?
The question is, what specific initiative is Lisa implementing to support local industries and promote made in Liberia products? How will these efforts impact the country's economic and the protections of consumers' safety, especially the alcohol in this country that is allegedly damaging labor?
Thank you so much. So initially when we talk with the essence of the Liberia Standard Authority, the first thing is consumer safety and trade facilitation and agricultural development. So all of our services is geared towards consumer. And if you heard me here just now, I said we are here to tell you that what you eat, what you wear, where we live, all those basically are kind of very sick with that. So donors, partners today, like with the WFP, the first technical MOU I sat in when I was appointed, that I sat on was WFP has been bringing food, the food feeding food around to food school where you got different food and all the stuff. So our concern has been, okay, WFP bring this food here, whether beans or rice. The library student eat that. He goes home. He's not eating that same food. Most of the foods are expected from, okay, basically use basic food. So how can we collaborate? That's a collaboration between us that's going to help the local farmers and basically on that. So lastly, someone talked about how do we expand to the rural areas on our strategic plan. So we are grounded now by 2027, we want to expand in the different countries after we have started performing equitably within the confines of what we have in order to start expanding by 2027. Thank you.
Thank you.
Every corridor, the street lights are being planted in. Those lights are meant to cover the entire corridor. So if you are making observation, as for the person who has that question about the freeway, if you still see some gaps, then just know that the gaps will be filled, because the goal is to have all of the corridors properly lighted. The court ruling was clear. You go to jail, you pay some money. Whether you pay the money when you go to jail or you pay the money after you come from jail, I don't know that. Well, in the end of the day, you do both. Maybe we can go ask the judge which one comes first. Jail first, or the money first, or the money first and the jail first. But the ruling didn't explain that. They just established the fact that you have to do that restitution in addition to the sentencing. Let me just add, since we still got small time before we close, the Central Bank of Liberia and the Bank of Ghana signed a memorandum of understanding to deepen collaboration across the West African region. It aims to strengthen institutional collaboration and technical capacity, to enhance financial sector resilience, to facilitate information sharing and capacity development. The relationship framed as strategic and timely amid increasing complexities in global and regional financial systems. Key provisions of that MOU 3-year agreement with 2-year non-binding extension option. They will have structured staff exchanges to build institutional capacity. Focus areas will include banking, supervision, monitoring policy, analysis, financial stability, cyber security, payment systems, digital currency, currency management, and AI in central banking. Opportunities for targeted training, technical attachment, joint research, and peer-to-peer knowledge sharing. In terms of implementation, is effective immediately. There will be a phased rollout of staff exchanges, technical programs over the agreement's duration. The MOU aims to improve policy formulation, regulation, and financial stability in Liberia, and also to strengthen regional capacity and collaboration between key central banks with potential benefits for Ghana and the broader West African region. I want to thank you all for today's press conference. Thank our guests.
Just before you shut down your cameras, we want to announce that we will be convening meeting with PR officers from across the government tomorrow here at the Ministry of Information. So we just want to use the meeting to send out the announcement to everybody concerned. Thank you.
First, we want to say thank you again for watching this press briefing and the major information here at the Charleston press corps, where we just brought you the briefing of today's press conference. I want to say thank you again for watching and have yourself a wonderful day. And what I show you by the grace of God, this coming Thursday, by His grace, we'll bring you another more information regarding the government. So this is Vision on our TV. This is our little journey on our carrying. And have yourself a wonderful and a God bless day for our nation capital.